Well, I want to welcome you to the Wyandotte County Museum. My name is Ron Marvin. I am the curator here at the Wyandotte County Museum. And since we finished our first floor tour, now we're going to take a look at the rooms on the second floor. Some of you have decided not to go up, or you cannot go up to the second floor. So this will give you an opportunity to see what's up there, including our newest exhibit on the Artz department store. So follow me as we go upstairs. As we arrive at the top of the stairs, we're on our second floor hallway, and this has a few exhibits about some of our sports championships or sports memorabilia, as well as we have some exhibits from pieces from our clock collection, and also an exhibit about scouting in Wyandot County. A couple other features here. This door leads out to the balcony over top of the front porch, and then we also have some stairs that go up to the attic, and that is where our collections that we don't have room to exhibit are located. That room was always just an unfinished room, and now we have, thanks to a couple of Eagle Scout projects, there are shelves with boxes full of artifacts there. At the bottom of the stairs is an interesting piece. It's one of our two presidential items in the collection. It is a trumpet that was used by Warren Harding when he was a student at Iberia College. It's kind of a unique shape in that I was told that the horn actually goes over the shoulder, and then whoever plays it, it played one note and everybody else would tune themselves to the band. Now we will be going into the early military room and look at some of our collections in there. This room is one of the original two bedrooms in the house, and it is what we call the early military room. And it has collections from the Mexican-American War in the 1840s, shortly after Wyandot County was founded, along with artifacts from the Civil War, Spanish-American War, all the way through World War I. We have a variety of cases with artifacts from the different eras, a lot of uniforms, things that the soldiers were issued, things they carried, but most often what we have in here on display are actually souvenirs brought back from the soldiers. Behind me are, in this case, on the left side are various rifles that were brought back primarily from World War I. And then on the right are shotguns that, as they were becoming obsolete, they would then be donated to the Wyandot County Historical Society. Up above is a machine gun from World War I that was used on an aircraft. Also in here we have scattered about, there are some displays about the Uss Wyandotte. There were actually three ships that were named after the Wyandot Indians, or later Wyandot County. The Uss Wyandotte, originally known as the Western Port, was used during the Civil War in the 1860s. The Uss Wyandotte, previously known as the Uss Vesuvius, was used during the Spanish-American War in the 1890s. And then there was also an attack class cruiser cargo ship that was used during World War II that was named USS Wyandotte after Wyandot County. This case has artifacts related to Cyrus Sears. He was from the Harpster area. He received the Medal of Honor during the Civil War, primarily for the Battle of Iuka, Mississippi. He was a lieutenant in an artillery company, and it said that they kept firing a delaying action until every man and horse had either been killed or wounded, and they ran out of all the ammunition that they had. Just some of the other cases, items from the early eras, the American Revolution, the War of 1812, whose soldiers settled in this area after the war. And then also there are items from the Mexican-American War, as I mentioned, from 1845, 1846 in this case. The case behind me has a lot of items related to the Spanish-American War, soldiers' equipment that they carried, as well as some memorabilia related to the USS Maine. And it's interesting to note that the battleship Maine, we actually have a porthole cover that is embedded in a monument at Harrison Smith Park here in Upper Sandusky. This case has artifacts from World War I, and again, there's our second presidential item in this case is the small handgun on the top shelf. It is a target pistol based on the 1918 sidearm, and it has a kind of unique story in that it belonged to President Lyndon Baines Johnson. He was living in Texas. He kept going to Sunday services, and he was so enamored with the pastor and the services that he wanted to give him a present. So the President Johnson gave the pastor this small handgun we have on display. Not really wanting it or needing it, the pastor had connections to the Godfrey family who arranged to have it placed in the Wyandotte County Museum. So as I tell our visitors, only in Texas, what is a good gift for my preacher or my pastor? I know, I'll get him a handgun. Not necessarily something that a pastor really wants. So it's on display with some original firearms that were brought back from Germany. One of my favorite pieces in the collection is, in this case, this is a collection of memorabilia brought back from Lieutenant McNamara, who served in World War I, and he settled in Wyandotte County after the war. On the right is what's called a German man trap. This is about a 5-foot tall, about 75-pound piece of 1/4-inch cast iron. Everybody else is bringing back souvenirs like hats, coins, helmets, and he's walking through and the fields and sees this laying in the ground, thinks it's going to make a great souvenir, so he straps it to his back and hikes for a couple miles till he finds a poor horse. He straps it to the horse and walks for a few miles until he finds someone with a truck that can ship it back to port for him. But it's always been one of my favorite pieces, just because of that story of how it got saved. And as I've researched it, I've only found 2 or 3 other versions of a German man trap in European museums. All right, now we're moving into one of the other original bedrooms. The 2 rooms on the front upstairs were the 2 original bedrooms that the McConnell family used when they were here. Today, this room is our modern military room with artifacts and memorabilia from World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, a lot of the more modern eras. And so we have a variety of uniforms, military memorabilia, souvenirs in here as well. The case to my right has some artifacts related to the Berlin Wall. And this exhibit came about because we actually found pieces during inventory from East Germany, West Germany, as well as a couple pieces of the Berlin Wall. We have a wide variety of uniforms that have been donated over time, and we have some examples of those on display. These are 3 fairly unique Army uniforms that just show the variety of jobs that soldiers from Wyandotte County had. The case behind me, Gerald Benow, who served as a cook in the United States Navy during World War II, shipped back some souvenirs to his family, including a Japanese rifle and bayonet that we have on display underneath his uniform, complete with his apron. This case to my right has a lot of our collection's memorabilia on display from World War II. Including some medals that were earned by Gail Smith, who served with the Flying Tigers during World War II. In the center case is artifacts related to the Korean War, including information about the 3 soldiers from Wyandotte County that lost their lives, including a Navy pilot, Ensign Frederick Cale, who we have his Purple Heart and some other memorabilia that were donated by the family. This case has artifacts related to the Vietnam War, some items that were brought back, and then there are a couple of images of 2 of the 11 men that died during Vietnam from Wyandotte County. And we're kind of lucky that we have not lost any soldiers in war since 1969. On the other side, we have a 1952 television along with some of our Korean War memorabilia. Some items from the Desert Shield, Desert Storm era that were sent back by Stephen Hill, whose uniform and photographs are on the top shelf above my head. Then we have, in contrast to the World War I, a machine gun off an aircraft. This is actually a German aircraft from a German fighter plane. And then this case has some artifacts in here. There's some unique pieces, such as original food that was served to the soldiers. We have original Civil War hardtack, 160-year-old crackers, a reproduction of World War II rations, MREs from Desert Storm, and as well as C rations from Vietnam. And then on the bottom is a variety of various denominations of bills from different Asian countries, where Gail Smith, who was in the Flying Tigers, brought a lot of these back and kept as souvenirs. Now, as we step up into the 1860s edition, we're going into what we call the McConnell Bedroom. And we give it this name because it has some of the original furniture from the McConnell family. The story is, when they donated the house in 1960, they asked that at least one room would be left the way it was when the family lived here. And with having been donated Dr. and Mrs. McConnell's original bed, a marble top dresser, washstand, a bookcase, they made the decision to leave this room similar to a bedroom like it might have been back when the family lived here. So the rounded walls, the corners are original. Not quite sure why they're rounded, but that was the way that the house was actually constructed. So in addition to the McConnell furniture pieces, we also have in this case some small items from the McConnell family that have been donated over time. And they periodically come back and visit us, the descendants of Fowler and Lucille McConnell, and donate items. The black dress in the corner was actually worn by Leafy Fowler, the wife of Isaac, who the house was built for, and she wore that probably in the 1880s. In addition to the McConnell family items, we have a lot of women's fashions from the 1880s, 1890s on display in this room as well. And then as we go into another one of the original bedrooms, this was restored in the 1980s and known as the McDaniel Room. Today it is our immersive Artz department store exhibit. This is the newest edition, newest display in the museum that just opened in May of 2022. And it is an immersive exhibit focusing on the Artz department store in downtown Upper Sandusky. So we have display cases in here with various women's accessories, clothing items, hats along the wall, coats. We have dresses that were owned by Catherine Artz, jewelry such as you might have found at Artz department store. There is a painting on the wall, the perspective painting by Richard Arstone, that shows how the department store continued on and on. So the idea is that you're in the front of the store looking back. And then we have changing rooms and a stock room up here as well. And just the whole idea is to bring you into a department store. As we turn the corner, there are a few steps down here. The steps, if you were to go down to the left, those are the original Maids staircase, the private staircase that would have just gone down to the kitchen. that would have been used primarily by the maid. And then down in the small room at the bottom of the stairs is the Maids Quarters. Today, this room has artifacts and items from the Artz department store. We call it our Artz history room, with original items that were actually purchased or used at the department store and have been donated to the society over time, especially since we began this new exhibit. So we have some dresses worn by Catherine Artz, as well as little items that you might have purchased at the store. And then this case has hats that are on loan that were actually purchased at the store, including one that we believe was actually worn in the Shawshank Redemption movie when it was filmed in Upper Sandusky. And then on loan to us as well is this quilt that was created at the 1980 Wyandot County Fair. And it was sewn together by the seamstresses at Artz department store and then raffled off. And it was provided to us for display for the first couple months during the opening. But traditionally, this room has always been the Mage Quarters, and by looking at the census records, we actually have a record of some of the young women that lived here in the house and helped take care of the McConnell and Berry families. All right, so that sort of concludes the brief walkthrough of the second floor, and I want to thank you for visiting the Wyandot County Museum. If you have any questions, we're always available to try to answer them. We have a Facebook page, a website that you can look at. But again, thank you for visiting the Wyandot County Museum.